Alrighty, what's going on, everybody? This is Brendan back again with another video, doing another time trial with the KA100 carts and KartKraft. This one is at Whilton Mill. Last episode I did one at the North Texas karting track, and yeah, this one was a lot more challenging for me than NTK was. There's just a few corners on this track that took me a really long time to nail, and even still, as you'll see by the end of this video, I wasn't even super consistent even by the end when I was getting a lot faster and starting to figure out exactly what I needed to do to go fast. So yeah, it took me a long time and lots of mistakes, but as you can see, we're starting this one a little bit differently than we did with the NTK video. In that one, I started without having set a time in time trial at all, so I started at the back of the leaderboard. This time we're starting in the, I think it was like the 56th percentile or something like that, somewhere in the middle of the group. I had just set a time the day before recording this video, so we're starting off trying to beat a 49.9 lap time around Whilton Mill, and that's not a particularly fast lap to begin with, but for me it was already pretty challenging to consistently get a sub 50, and you'll see by the end of this video I get a sub 49. So I shaved about almost 2 seconds off of my lap time. I think it was around 2 seconds from these first laps I'm doing here that you're watching right now versus the lap I was able to do by the end of this video. So yeah, it was pretty crazy. Similar to when I did the time trial at the North Texas karting track, I was able to shave about 2 seconds off my time in that video as well. So pretty similar in that regard. And the goal of that video was to get into the 90th percentile. I wound up getting into the 92nd percentile, so the top 8% of times, and that was the same goal for this video as well. So I'm starting, like I said, around the 56th percentile with this time that I'm trying to beat here, and then getting up to the 92nd percentile again, just by chance, and that was kind of when I stopped. So you can already see me making a lot of mistakes, doing a lot of things wrong, which if you're not familiar with this track, you might not recognize, but I'll start to point out stuff that I was doing wrong as we go. So this was starting out with the same setup that I had for the NTK track, which is not the right setup at all for this track, and I wound up eventually changing it for, I think, setting my very final lap time. You could see the theme of today is going to be invalid laps going off track. In that situation, it was going into that turn braking, and I didn't really need to brake, and so I wasn't putting in any steering lock to turn that left-hander too tight. I just used brake, which caused too much rotation, and you can see I even counter-steered into that corner and still invalidated. So it took me a while to realize I didn't need to touch the brake at all. I could just lift off the gas. In fact, not even lifting off the gas fully, but just lifting off the gas a bit just gives you a little bit more stability through the corner, where these carts, compared to a lot of like race cars, they're really twitchy. So you'll notice if you're not used to karting and you look at the steering wheel of this gameplay, you'll see how little the wheel is actually being turned in order to rotate the cart a whole lot. And compared to a race car, it's a lot smaller than just a normal race car where you're turning the steering wheel maybe twice as much. Even in an F1 car, which people relate go-karting to F1, you know, to go through a hairpin, for instance, in a Monaco, you're completely rotating the steering wheel and crisscrossing your arms. You're rotating so far, like 180 degrees around, whereas that never really happens in karting. The other thing that makes them really twitchy is the really short wheelbase. Just the proportions of go-karts, they're really different from anything else out there that you'll race, and very challenging to get just right. You could be doing, you know, an extra 1 or 2 degrees of steering input, and that could completely upset the cart and cause you to spin out if you're not careful. The difference of many tenths of a second per lap is very subtle amounts of steering input, very subtle changes in brake pressure, and it's really challenging to be really consistent on that from a corner by corner, lap by lap basis. So, you know, by the end of this video, I set a fast lap time, but it would be very naive to say I could do that consistently all the time. And I think that's really what separates the good drivers from the great drivers, is that consistency, the ability to be fast all the time. I think drivers of my skill level, myself, I have the potential to be really, really fast in one lap out of 50, but to be able to do it lap after lap after lap, that's really what separates the greats from the kind of mediocre drivers like myself. For maybe the final hour of me trying to get in the 90th percentile, I knew exactly what I needed to do, and I had an optimal lap time of, I believe at one point I had a sub 48 optimal lap time, which is basically the computer telling you how fast you could potentially go based off of all your previous laps, your best corners in every lap, your best sectors. And so I knew I had the potential to go as fast as I needed to go in order to get into the 90th percentile, but actually putting one clean lap together of all of your best sectors, all of your best corners, is super, super challenging. And I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir here. I'm sure everybody watching this video knows exactly the experience that I'm talking about. So let's switch up the subject then. So as you can see, I finally did beat that first time of a 49.9, and now I'm up against Steve Carter trying to beat a 49.8, so trying to go 1/10 faster, which isn't that much faster, but let's see how we're doing here. I skipped ahead. We're a few laps in already, sending a lot of 49s, and there we go. We just beat that, so I just skipped a few laps just to get ahead. I think this entire session, I beat this goal of mine of 90th percentile in 2 different sessions, one this evening and then the following evening. So you could see my reaction there when I realized a 49.8 was only 73rd percentile, because at that point I had already put in like an hour on top of what I had done of practice before I even started recording this video. So to me, that was like, I couldn't fathom a faster lap than I had just done, and to be still so far from 90th percentile, you could see my reaction. I just thought that was hilarious. But anyway, so now we're trying to beat a 49.7, so trying to take off another 10th off of our time. We're up 3 tenths already, so we're actually almost 4 tenths into this corner here, and I don't know, I felt like I was always taking that corner quickly, but I lost a 10th, gained back a 10th in the chicane, just stayed within the boundaries of that exit, and we're going to be 3.6 tenths. So you can see my reaction there, beating that quite quickly, and my reaction was such surprise because I didn't think I could beat, what was it, a 49.8, and then I just beat it by 3.6 tenths. So now we're in the 80th percentile, so now I'm feeling a lot better. I stopped that session that evening, and now we're jumping to, this is the following day. I took a break and decided to come back to it. A little rusty in the beginning, but I picked it back up not too slowly. But now this was the hardest one to get past, a 49.067. So when I got into the 73rd percentile, that was a 49.8, and now just go 8 tenths faster than that. So this took a really, really long time for me to actually be able to beat. So let's start analyzing the lap here. We're 3 tenths down, 2 tenths down. Honestly, not too bad, all things considered, but I'm about to make a big mistake here when you're just pushing super hard into the final corner. Go a little bit off the track and totally invalidate. So now, let's show a quick montage of all of the mistakes over the course of, I don't know, 45 minutes that I was making on all different parts of the track. This is the point where you're just getting fatigued and you're not even thinking clearly anymore, and you're sort of mindlessly driving and trying to be quick and forgetting all of your fundamentals and all of the ways that you were taking the track quickly before, just going over all the curbs and upsetting the balance of the car and invalidating and braking when you shouldn't be, or getting in the gas too early, or too much steering input. So yeah, you could tell my frustration. But it's good that I'm still laughing it off. But Anyway, so let's take a look at this lap. It was always a good sign when I could be ahead of the challenger into the first corner. I'm up almost 3/10, or yeah, 3/10, 4/10. I was losing a little bit of time in that chicane, but I took it okay there, realizing I could just lift off the gas in that corner. I love corners like this one where it's like a late apex. I always seem to do good and make up time against a lot of other drivers in late apex corners. And then this entire sequence at the end, I was always just losing so much time here. So as you can see, I was up the entire lap, and then in that last sequence, I lost almost 2/10. But the good part of that is I knew I was capable of beating a sub 49. So I'm going to walk you through this entire lap, with the winning lap getting into the 90th percentile. So this first corner is all about taking it far to the left, so you can use as little brake as possible and get on the gas as early as possible for this really long straight. That was an aspect of this that took me a long time to master. That corner, what I realized about that one is straightening out the wheel earlier than you think and going wider on the exit into the first part of the chicane. That hairpin is really challenging to get just right amount of rotation without losing time. Again, this late apex corner, get on the gas early for this long straight. I'm up 3/10 into the final section, but this section was always the most challenging part for me. Luckily, I took that pretty well, still up about 2/10, and in this final corner, I'm just trying to take it smoothly, not invalidate, and I beat it by 1.7 I was so excited, but completely dead, and yeah, that was insane. I skipped a lot of trial and error there. 89th percentile nationally, but 92nd percentile globally. So I was so happy about that. And yeah. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed that. We're going to try to make this a series. So I'm going to try to do getting in the 90th percentile in time trial in every single racetrack on KartKraft. So I hope you guys enjoy that, and I will catch you in the next one.